Hey, I'm Dr. Tom Miller, and welcome to our next Mentorship Monday. This is session 8. We're going to be focusing on building next year's team. It starts now. So if you're listening to this when it was recorded, it's May, um, and we're going to be talking about how to use the executive operating system to build sustainable, lasting teams. So we're going to go through how strong teams are built, how leadership systems shape organizational culture, communication and meetings create alignment. Summer preparations. I'm going to share with you how to grab our most asked for tools, our principles quarterly checklist. And good intentions are not enough, right? It's all about intentional action. And we'll finalize with how sustainable organizations are built through disciplined leadership. So let's get started. Let's get started. If this is your first session with us, thank you, thank you. I take these sessions very, very valuable. Your time is valuable, so it's my goal to be as valuable as possible for you. And over the last several weeks, we've talked about culture, accountability, retention, leadership growth, difficult decisions. Last week, who should we be firing? Who should we be firing? Who should we be keeping? And alignment, team alignments, very, very critical. So go back to the past sessions and listen to it. If you missed one, I guarantee you're going to get some really great strategies and systems to build. And each lesson has a summary. So you can look in the show notes and make sure you download the summary. So today I'm going to shift from difficult decisions to intentional building. Intentional building. Most leaders wait until summer to think about next year. Now, I mean, honestly, this happens because of the busyness, right? But strong leaders start building next year, probably January or February. I mean, that's the cadence you want to get into. As a leader, everybody, someone on your team needs to be thinking 3 to 6 months ahead, and the head of the organization or someone needs to be thinking 3 to 5 years ahead, right? So you're constantly wanting, to be at minimum 3 to 6 months ahead of your team, if not longer. So the leadership reality that most leaders miss is that organizations and schools, they don't fail because people don't care. They're struggling because leadership systems are inconsistent, and systems are across the board one of your main responsibilities. If you're listening to this as the head of school, right, it's your job to ensure systems are operating and there. If you're a C-level leader, B-level leader, right, it's your job to make sure that the systems are working and implemented correctly and effective. And so organizations eventually experience the consistency of the leader. So if your leader, you as the leader, or if there's someone above you, if they're inconsistent with their behavior, their actions, their communications, everything's going to suffer, right? So that's communication inconsistency, accountability inconsistency, meeting inconsistency, leadership inconsistency, emotional inconsistency. They're all very, very dangerous aspects of leadership. And so this is where John Maxwell, if you've read his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I highly recommend, besides my book, getting a copy of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. But the first law is the law of the lid. And leadership capacity will always determine the organizational effectiveness. Basically, everything rises and falls with leadership. So if you're inconsistent with your communication, okay, that could be through timeliness of communication, who communication is to, or the actual message being different every time. Like, you're the lid. The organization, the team will not be more successful than your ability to lead them through communication, right? If you're not holding accountability at the same consistent level across the board. Now, I'm not saying how you lead people. I'm saying how you hold accountability as like goal number one of your organization. Because accountability isn't that I'm telling you that you didn't do it, right? Accountability is that I can count on you to do your job. But for me to count on you to do your job, you need to know what your job is. You need to know what the end result is. What's the deadline for the result? Okay. That's the only way to be to be held accountable, right? Is I need to know what I'm responsible for. Meeting inconsistency, right? So there's, it's so much time is wasted in meetings. Give me a yes in the comment box if you agree or like. So much time is wasted. And it's really because leaders haven't learned how to effectively lead meetings. And it's one of the key lessons in our high performing school systems program is how to effectively lead meetings. So information is cascaded, decisions are made. But man, I have sat in some really bad meetings, and I'm sure I've led to some really bad meetings in the past. But meetings need to be consistent. Everybody needs to know why I'm here. What's my role here? What's the purpose of this meeting? How do I prepare for this meeting? How do I exit this meeting? Okay. If those areas are inconsistent, right, it's going to cause an issue in your organization's success. Okay. Emotional inconsistency. I mean, this one here, right? You as the leader, your emotions, your emotions bring the weather to your team. And you cannot allow yourself to get tied into the emotional roller coaster that a school is per day. Your team is depending upon you. So no matter where you are in your organization, you need to understand what creates my emotion, what is my behavior under different emotions. And we see this when leaders try to take it all on. They take things personally, right? That's always a woe is me. And there's a level of maturity required. And, believe me, we're all human. We all get emotional. But between cause and effect, there is a moment. And it's your responsibility to lead in that moment. Okay, but if you're modeling poor behavior through emotions, then your team's going to carry out poor, behavior. And that could be talking bad about people. That, could be blowing up in a meeting or raising your voice. It could be making irrational, decisions. So there's multiple leadership laws that really tie into this that I'm going to share with you. One, I've already talked about the law of the lid, but a second one I'm going to talk about is the law of the chain. The weak link impacts the entire organization, right? We're only as strong as our weakest link in our chain, right? And this is from the 17 Laws of Teamwork, Maxwell's book. And so you'd be thinking about this. If you're covering the job and the responsibilities of other people on your team, right? Ultimately, your job is, becoming weakened. And so as the leader, it's your responsibility to put everybody in their place, right? Put them in the right positions to be successful, clearly communicate what their responsibilities are, equip them, coach them, support them to be more successful. But if you're doing the job or members of your team are doing the job of other people, that's, no one can do 100%, more than 100% of their own capacity. So you continue to weaken the organization. So the law of the chain, it's a great law, very, very critical law. And the last law will be the law of buy-in, that people buy into the leader before the division. And this is something that I really struggled at earlier in my career. I was not a very strong leader of character. I was very judgmental, as I've shared on previous sessions. And I had what I thought was a very strong, clear vision, but we just weren't executing. And I didn't understand why. It's really because nobody trusted me, because I didn't give them a reason to trust me, because I didn't connect with them. I didn't build relationships with them. So remember this, that people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. Okay, so those are three particular laws that I wanted to share with you. And then, with this, I've recently reflected on something very, very difficult. And a lot of you are going to benefit from this. But I've had books sitting on my shelf for over a year, and I read a lot. I read, probably anywhere between 50 and 75 books a year. So a lot of them need to go. There's no more room on the shelf. So be on the lookout for a link for you to get some of my books. I'm going to pay to have them shipped to you. They are gently used and written in, but they're great value adds. Okay, so that's besides the point. I've had books sitting on my shelf for over a year now that would have helped me in the difficult conversations, the leadership blind spots that I now recognize since I was not renewed from my last role, improving culture, improving psychological safety, being able to really understand the micro and macro politics of a school, and accountability, right? I owned the information. I had purchased it. I had gone through specific certifications and trainings, but I did not intentionally apply the awareness, right? I didn't open the book, read it, apply it. I didn't, after I took the EQ assessment that I bought for my team and we never went through like a next step, training to really unpack and really understand it. And as crazy as I was building my professional development plan over the next 90 days, right, based upon those areas, connecting with people, creating psychological safety, micro and macro politics, really just really improving my ability to make strong, deep connections at a 360 degree level. When I was building out the plan, I was using my AI tool to do that. I started to ask, like, what were some of the best resources that I could do over the next 90 days, right? Who should I listen to? What books should I read? What training should I go through? Over 50% of the professional development plan was on my bookshelf. It was on my bookshelf. You see, good intentions do not create strong leadership. Intentional action does. So looking back, there were likely lessons that could have raised my awareness earlier, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, that could have improved conversations and systems and blind spots. And I could have seen some patterns in my leadership that now that I see, my awareness has been raised. And this is the key piece I want you to understand, that awareness without action creates vulnerability. And awareness is the first step to growth. It's a first step for the opportunity to grow, not for growth, because I had it. I just wasn't aware that I was doing it, right? And a lot of leaders, they have shelf help, right? Shelf help, SHELF, shelf help, but not self-development. See, healthy organizations, they don't happen accidentally. They're built through intentional leadership systems. And so this next part, as you kind of, reflect, like, what's on your shelf that you've bought that you haven't gone through that you should? Read, apply, make changes, teach other people. That's how you're going to grow. Okay. So let's talk about this executive operating system that I want you to really identify. And I'm going to put a visual here that you can download and see it, right? But this framework is not just about leadership. It's about building organizations that can sustain growth, clarity, and culture. Strong teams aren't built through motivation, all right? They're not built through speeches. They're not built through, one-off, trainings. They're built through systems, consistency, and intentional leadership development. Okay, systems, consistency, and intentional leadership development. And the first part of this cycle is self-awareness. You have to know yourself and know your team. Most organizations are trying to solve external problems with leaders who lack internal clarity. So there's lots of great tools that we use. We've used internally for our team, and that we have helped other teams, right? One is DISC. DISC is a personality profile that helps individuals better understand how they're wired, so they can become more aware of how their actions, behaviors, communication patterns impact other people. In addition, it helps you best understand who's on your team. How do they think? How do they communicate? How do they think task first or people first, right? What's their personality style? That's the first one. The second one is Working Genius. This is a great tool from Pat Lencioni. This Working Genius helps you better understand. He identified there's six processes of a task. There's the wonder, right? Wondering, how we could do it. There's invention, someone who, creates. D is for discernment. This is about, is this the right time? What are the questions we need to ask? Then there's the G. It's, galvanizing, like the person who needs to kind of rally everybody through like the challenges and keep everybody moving. Then you have enablement and tenacity. Enablement, and these are the closers. These are these are the really strong, finishers on your team who can really take a task at the very end and close it up. So the Working Genius helps you ensure that you're building a team that completes each other, not a team that competes. So when you have too many people with the same personality styles as DISC and also the same maybe working strengths, it can cause frustration from here to there in terms of projects. And this happens a lot in smaller teams. It happens a lot with teams who haven't really done a good job of equipping and empowering everybody to take certain aspects of every role. Okay, these are two great tools. If you're interested, just email me aware, right? Self-aware or aware, and I'll understand what you're talking about, and I'll send you the information for those. Stay interviews. It's a great tool. So we're in the second week of May. Last week or the week before, I shared out some resources for you to have stay interviews with your staff. You could do them with your families. Okay. Really get to understand why people choose, why they stay, what do they love about the place, what do they not always love about the place. Open yourself up to get some great feedback, especially around your blind spots, right? Sit with your team and ask them, what's it like to be across the table from me? What is it like to be led by me? What are some areas that I just don't see? Understand your emotional triggers. When you take the DISC, you'll best understand your emotional behaviors under stress and conflict. Or we've just started launching our EQ project, our emotional quotient project. It's going to be part of our emotionally intelligent school leader program coming up this year, right? What are your emotional triggers? What do you best understand? Because what we find is that individuals don't lead through the lens of other people. You lead through your lens. So by combining DISC, Working Genius, and your EQ assessment, you're going to have a great understanding of your own self-awareness, become a more self-aware leader, but also you're going to best understand the people around you and how to recognize their behaviors and their traits so you can be a better leader for them. So that is part one, right? It's all about self-awareness. And there's a lot of great leadership principles here. First is John Maxwell's law of navigation, that leaders must see before others see. Like anybody can steer the boat, right? But it takes really somebody strong to navigate, the course. And you can only navigate the course if you know the people who are on your team. This is a great way to build trust. When teams will struggle when leaderships avoid vulnerability and honest conversations, but by getting to know everybody, connect with them, understand how they think, what they value. That's another great tool that we have. Our values cards. It's a great mini workshop that we put teams through. What do they value? What's important to them? How do they think? What are their experiences? Right? You got to build those opportunities for your team to have healthy conflict so you can get to the best results. And once all leaders better understand themselves, then they must learn to lead consistently. You have to take that information and make adjustments. Your Your people that you serve are not going to lean into you. You've got to be leaning into them and be more flexible. So that takes us to our part two, which is personal discipline, right? Leading yourself to create consistency. And culture is built through repeated leadership behaviors. Culture is built through repeated leadership behaviors, right? So again, we've talked through many of these, but calendar discipline, visibility, follow through, meeting preparation, presence, emotional consistency. Like these are all keys to leadership behavior, being on time, being prepared, being able to communicate what success looks like, right? Ensuring that if it's, I'm not just scheduling my priorities on my calendar, right? I'm prioritizing my schedule. If I say I'm going to be in a classroom, I'm going to be there. If I say I'm going to meet with someone, I'm going to be there and I'm going to be prepared. That means you have to say no and you have to build in white space, right? So you can move and transition from meeting to meeting without bringing the emotion of the last meeting into the new meeting. Build in 15, 30-minute buffers. Don't schedule more than 4 meetings, per day, no more than half of your day, and no meeting should last more than 30 minutes, right? If everybody understands the purpose of the meeting, how to prepare for the meeting, they've done their pre-work and the meeting, runs really smoothly, 30 minutes really, depending on how many topics, if your meetings are running longer, either have too much dialogue, right, or too many topics, right? So really understand the Pareto principle, and that's that 80% of your results come from 20% of your input, right? So what 2 things are the most important that you need to address, 1 or 2 things during this meeting? So this also means that you're taking the time to grow yourself. So improving your own time management, right? Improving your body language and your tone of voice. If you've heard my lesson on everyone communicates, if you connect, you'll understand that communication goes way above words. 55% of your communication is body language. 38% is tone of voice. That means that 93% of what you convey has nothing to do with the words you use. It's all about how you're showing up, okay? So that's a critical point. So are you growing through this process, right? What are you doing every day? And my favorite reflection tool is simply this. Every day, what went well? What went wrong? What was my role in either? And what will I do differently tomorrow? What will I do differently tomorrow, right? So that's reflect on a meeting structure, right? Get some better systems in play. Okay, were you out and about in the school today? Were you in the car line? Were you saying hi to people or just walking around? Like you got to take the time to connect and just be more than visible. Be human. Be human. Okay, follow through, right? Are you ensuring that after someone told you about a challenge or a problem they're having or something was broken or something was wrong, are you closing the accountability loop? Right? Are you letting them know? Like if there's a discipline issue and someone was sent to your office, are you letting the teacher know that it's been addressed, right? You could even share what was addressed or how it was addressed. That's your choice, but the teacher wants to know that it's been addressed. And it's not going to be a reoccurring problem in their classroom. So they're going to need some sort of strategy or system if it happens again. I'm telling you how much pain this causes schools when principals or disciplinarians don't follow back up with the teacher and don't put the systems in play to eliminate, right, or reduce the risk of that behavior repeating. Nothing will lose credibility faster. Nothing will lose credibility faster, okay? So law of solid ground right here, another principle, trust is built through consistency, right? Trust is built through consistency. All right, let's keep rolling on. So we've done a good job. We've talked about self-awareness, 1, and we've talked about personal discipline, okay? Self-awareness and personal discipline. Now, chaos in leadership creates anxiety in culture, right? If everybody's always running around and, decisions are made haphazardly or things, change on the calendar, right? That creates anxiety in the culture because remember, culture is the behavior of the people within it. Okay, it's the lowest tolerated behavior It's the actions of all the people. So if your decision making and your organization runs chaotically, it's going to create anxiety in people. But once consistency exists, leaders can begin developing intentionally, right? Developing all their people intentionally through consistent systems that line up. So let's talk about growth orientation, right? Growth orientation. This is phase 3. So grow continuously to develop other people. So strong leaders don't just build programs, they build people. Your number one job, right, as a leader is to equip and develop those you lead. It might not be everybody in your organization, and it shouldn't probably be everybody in your organization. It should be, though, you spending 80% of your time with the top 20% of your people. This could be members of your leadership team. It could be, department heads. It could be some really talented, capacity built, teachers. It could be board members. Could be volunteers, right? Your top 80%, I'm sorry, your top 20%, you're spending 80% of your time with them, coaching them, right? Coaching isn't telling people what to do. Coaching is using a very cognitive, curious process to help unlock the potential in other people. Coaching is not telling people what to do, right? That's direction. If you want to be a high leader of influence, learn how to coach. You're not going to probably learn how to coach by just reading a book. You need to really go through a coaching program. We have a coaching for busy leaders program that's been over 200 people have gone through this, right? It's a very easy, simple way to transition from becoming a directive leader to a leader of influence. If not our program, go find one. Go learn how to coach. Go take courses and certifications, and not just go through the course and go, oh, that was great. Apply it, practice it, right? Start coaching everybody. Turn every conversation you have into a coaching conversation. Stop telling people what to do. The easiest question to help, someone comes to you, you could just say, hey, if I came to you with the same problem, what advice would you give me? And they'll probably have some really good strategies. And then you could just follow up. Have you tried any of those yourself? And odds are they're going to say no, right? Help them find the answer. 2 is giving feedback, timely, direct feedback, right? Very actionable, and depending upon the capacity of the person, right? Just help give them feedback so they could work through the next steps. And make sure you have the permission to give them feedback, right? It's not just you telling people how they did things wrong. Are you open to some feedback? How did you think the results went? What are some things you would do differently? Permission to tell you a story. That's more the next one. That's mentorship, right? Mentorship. So coaching, feedback, mentorship. And again, mentorship relationships is the mentee is responsible for bringing the content, right? Just like coaching, the person being coached is responsible for the content, right? They're the one bringing the problem, not you. It's not you to solve their problem. It's you that help unlock them, right? Feedback, you should be, prepared, more for that. Mentorship is the person coming, to you, looking for guidance, looking for help, looking for, support. And you're responsible to that person, not for that person. To that person, not for that person. It's their job to take the information and apply it. So if you've ever been on a coaching call with me, we'll probably end with something like this. Out of all the things we talked about, what are you most likely to try? What are you most likely to do? What are your next steps? Okay, that's them taking ownership of what their action steps will be. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, Tom, I got to get this person here or there, or I got to do this, or I got to follow up with an email, or I got to file like a systems protocol. Sorry, while I get my water. I hear you. That's not helping anybody. I'm sorry. It may help them a little, but that is a positional leadership strategy. It's not a permissional leadership strategy. It's not a people development strategy. Telling people what they did wrong is not going to help them unless they asked you. Unless they asked you. So you coach, right? You empower, you equip, you mentor, you develop, you create leadership pathways, you find out, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? How can I help you get there? What are some ways that we can put you in situations where you could learn these skills? And I'll tell you, the best way to develop anybody is if there's a fire going on, bring them in. If there's a tough meeting, bring them in. If there's a situation or a challenge on campus, bring them in. Let them learn and hear and feel, and then give them feedback, right? After, the meetings, you have your after action review. What went wrong? When did we miss it? How did we miss it? What's the system that needs to be repaired? Who's responsible for it? When are we going to follow up, and who's going to communicate it? Right? Professional growth is critical to the success of your school. The only way to improve the performance of your team and your school is to either improve the capacity of the people in it or get new ones. That's it. It's only two ways. Improve the adults' ability to teach or be the finance director or the HR director or the front office person. Like, they're not going to get better on their own. They're not. They knew how, they would already. They're not. Have growth as one of your core values. If we're expecting students to grow, how come we are not growing as adults? Just because we have a college degree, master's degree, a doctorate degree, doesn't mean that we stop growing. When you stop growing, you start dying. You start dying. One more piece on this is the appreciation languages. And this, this can be in the, in the second, quadrant, or, this one, but getting to know your team. And I did it a couple of weeks ago, so you have to go back. But, we have a whole appreciation languages kit and a survey that we built off of the book, the 5 workplace appreciation languages. A great book study for your team, no doubt. But identify how members of your team, how members of your staff like to be appreciated. Is it through words of affirmation? Is it quality time? Those are the top 2. If you just did those 2, words of affirmation, quality time, that's like 75% of the people. 75% of the people who took the study, those were their 2. And then you have gifts, right? Tangible gifts and acts of service for the other 2. The last one's physical touch. I wouldn't do that in the workplace. Stay out of that one. Okay, but what's their appreciation languages? So some really great leadership laws here. The law of empowerment, right? Secure leaders, develop others. I mean, you should be spending your day giving away your work, teaching other people how to do your job. You should basically just walk around and do nothing by the end. Empower the people around you, equip them, help them grow into the leaders that they want to be. Coach them, align them, redirect them when they're off. Make sure you've given a clear vision. And this is something that I have to do all the time. I'll say, hey, look, before you get to this next step, just stop and check in with me. It's not that I'm micromanaging. I just want to make sure that I've communicated well, and I value your time, and I don't want you to just, get done this project and me go, oh shoot, I forgot to tell you this. Like, just, have periodic or scheduled check-ins on tasks. So many of you are complaining about burning out and having to be responsible for it all. You're right. You are responsible for it all, but you're not required to do it all. So stop acting that way. You can't keep taking the job away from the people that were hired to do it. If they don't know how to do it, it's either a bad hire or they need training. So go get them training and ensure that the training sticks. Like, get a good person to do the training. Have them through a very deep development system and process. You want to build your bench, the law of the bench. It's one of the things we're going to do so much in all of our 5 levels of support systems, this year through our company, Leaders Building Leaders, right? Like my goal is to build the benches of all the schools that we work with. I want every school to be 10 to 12 leaders deep, minimum, in a consistent personal and professional growth program that's focused on leadership, communications, equipping. I'd love for you to be in it. I'd love for you to be in it. Remember, everything rises and falls with leadership. And so, people will disengage when growth disappears. They want to grow. There's not too many people in the world who don't want to grow. Well, I'll say this. James Allen had this quote. I hope I don't mess it up here because it's so great. He said, man, right, man or woman, individuals. It was written hundreds of years ago. But uh, desire to change their consequences, right? But have very little, desire to change themselves. The desire to change their circumstances, but little desire to change themselves. So you can't get better results by doing the same thing over and over and over again. You're going to have to ensure growth is a part of your team's behavior, your core values. Retention is going to increase when people believe that they are growing, when they believe this is a place for them long term, not just short term. Okay, long term. So if you're growing, but there's no alignment, you're going to create drift. And that's when people leave. That's when people leave. They may be hungry, they might be growing, but there's no alignment to the team. There's no alignment, to the vision. So make sure that everybody on your team is aligned. You've heard them. You've seen them. You've told them, you've future paced them into the long-term plan of the school. I see you as a coach. I see you as a leader. I see you as a supervisor. I see you as a department head. I see you as their athletic director. I see you as the next head of the school, whatever it may be. Okay. So let's talk about strategic alignment, right? Think long-term, build intentionally. Most organizations are reacting and very few are strategically building, right? So there's some really key points here. Succession planning. Everybody on your leadership team should have some form of succession plan in place. And I've already talked about bringing people into challenges, right? Really, really empowering them, teaching them how to do their job, not only their job, right, but part of your role. Everybody should know their role to the goal. Okay, so succession planning also happens through the creation of writing down, systems, making sure multiple people can follow through with a process. Role clarity is key. One of the most important exercises we do with teams is called the key result areas exercise. It's a great questionnaire. And it just really helps everybody unpack all the things that they do. And then we compare it to their job description and we compare it to what the leader thinks that they should be doing. And we help realign, and we start peeling away the work that they've just kind of taken on because they had to, or because there's no one to do it. Such an important, process when you're building strategic alignment. You want your team focusing on the right things every day, not just scheduling their priorities, but prioritizing their schedule 80% of their time on the top 20% of challenges. What gives the best results, right? Strategic staffing. Are you thinking, down the road, the goals of your organization, the goals of your school 3 years from now? right? Like whoever you want to be, that should be driving your staffing plan and development. It should be driving your board recruitment process. Your Now your summer planning. Now, your summer planning should be more like weeding, right? It should just be kind of cleaning up and really, really, evaluating anything you've done for more than 1 year in a row and just seeing if it still fits. Most of the strategic planning really should be happening in the spring, but like I said, sometimes you're behind. So if you're behind, right, get it done now. And we've got some tools if you need help, reach out, just type in strategic planning. Got a real easy system for you. But most importantly, you can't strategically plan if you don't have a clear vision for the future and goals, right? You can't write a plan without a goal. And a goal without a plan is just a wish. So you need those pieces. But when you're doing your spring strategic planning and your summer planning, okay, that has to be very, very intentional. The right people need to be in the room. That's where like you've gone back and you've really made sure that everything is lined up and you know exactly what tools are going to be used. And this is where weeding happens, right? Because your summer should be for rest. Your summer should be for development of your mind, right? Rest for your body, get that quality time with your family, and just weeding, right? Weeding. Really thinking about future leadership and a team structure, right? That's critically important. If you've read my book, I talk about the supervision ratio of a school, and nobody should be supervising more than 12 to 15 people. I mean, 15 is a lot. So how are you building your team? How you're building your org chart to ensure that you don't have an overwhelming supervision ratio? And the more individuals you can get in a coaching program and they learn how to coach, the more you can even reduce that supervision ratio. You could start to build your team to make sure everybody has 10 or 12 individuals underneath of them. So information's being cascaded. Everybody knows who to go to. Everybody is getting the like the touch points and the feedback that they need. I mean, some of you out there are, supervising 50 to 100. I've seen 150 people, some of the principals say, which I mean, I don't want to think they're lying to me, but that's a really poorly structured organization. It's probably not their fault. It's probably being, dictated to, by the budget and the school system. But it doesn't mean you can't create leaders in your organization to help reduce, right? To reduce the time it takes for employee number 237, right, to get an answer. So build a team structure that works and think big, but start small. You're like, Tom, I don't have the budget to hire all those people. Okay, just start thinking what it could be. What could it be? How could you start to build it out? And again, if you don't know, reach out. I'm happy to do some one-on-one time with you to help you think through, be your thinking partner to how do we create a team structure that works? How do I build a succession plan for everybody on my team? As a leader, it has to be one of your priorities to ensure everybody understands why this organization exists. That's your mission. How everybody will behave. That's your core values. What do we do, right? That's your goals, student learning, development, just be really clear, what are we going to achieve here? How will we succeed? Like, what are the strategies? What are the strategies? What are the main strategies? Every goal you have should have a very specific strategy identified to ensure that happens. What's most important right now? Those are your priorities. Because activity does not equal productivity, right? What's most important every day that we do consistently to ensure that we meet our mission, that we achieve our goals through the strategies we've chosen. And the last one is who's responsible for what, right? Those are the 6 questions to clarity. Why do we exist? How do we behave? What do we do? How will we succeed? What's most important right now? And number 6 is who's responsible for what. Like that is your job to make sure, because then you can get to victory, right? You can navigate your team to victory If everybody understands and has clarity around those six questions. So if you don't have your team in place yet, right? So that's what you need to be thinking on. What are the specific skills that we need? Let's look at the personality styles of our team. Maybe we have too many C styles that are very cautious and very contemplative, and they're very calculated. And we need more I styles. We need more like energy, more like influencers. We need more people-oriented people. Maybe our team is way too much in a task side. So, all right, so let's try to hire someone who's more people oriented and has like the very specific skill sets of XYZ. Like, strong leaders, right, build next year's team by having, clarity in who they want, right? It's almost like, if you go to the airport, right? Maybe you're a very, very famous person watching this, and you go to the airport, and when you come down the stairs, and like the escalator, and there's all those limo drivers, and some have names, so maybe some like have a picture, right? You need to create a picture of who you want. Who's the ideal team player on your team? Who are you missing? Who do you have too much of? Who do you have not enough of? What are the specific skills required for you to get to the next step, right? To take your organization to the next level. So let's talk about this framework. We're going to call it the build framework. B stands for beliefs, right? What culture are we building, right? What culture are we building? Every organization already has beliefs, right? The question is whether intentional, right? Beliefs drive behavior. This is tied right into your core values, right? So we talk about mission, values, standards, behavior, expectations, right? What do I believe? Do I believe that all students can learn? Do I believe that I have the skills, or I can learn the skills to ensure that they do learn, right? Beliefs are critical. Beliefs are critical. U stands for understand needs, right? What gaps truly exist, right? So I'm looking for beliefs, right? I got to know what our team beliefs are, and I need to understand what our needs are, what gaps exist in terms of hiring skills. And don't just hire from pressure, right? Hire from clarity. So skill gaps, leadership gaps, communication gaps, culture gaps. All right. And once you know the needs, then you can identify the right people. So I is identify talent. Who are we developing, retaining, and recruiting? Go back to last week's lesson. I did a whole kind of piece on us and on are you developing the right people? Are you developing someone? And I'll make sure that I drop it in the show notes. We've got a tool you can download to make sure you are developing the right individuals at your school. Now, the best hiring strategy is often developing the right people before you need them, right? So this is having that professional advancement, right? That leadership plan through your school, and building a leadership pipeline, and building your bench, having an internal development system, and building future leaders. It's critical, right? Building your bench. L stands for lead early, right? Start now, not the summer, and recruitment should be a year-long process. You should be consistently working to recruit and develop individuals, okay? So 12 months of the year, have a recruitment plan in place, continue to market your school, right? And start having strategic conversations, right? You got to have them now if you haven't had them, but these start in the fall. Start all that planning now. And then in the spring, you can start to line up, and you can start to rehire, and the cycle starts over and over and over and over again, right? And D is develop systems, onboarding, communication, expectations, reorientation, right? So you're going to orient and reorient, right? So have a really great orientation plan, have a great reorientation plan, have a very strategic plan for your in-service days. Make sure that you've got days throughout the year where you've got quality professional development kind of follow-up sessions. Just build a rhythm, right? You want to build a rhythm with your team. You want to have quarterly offsites, right? So whatever goals and vision you put in play, right? Every quarter, you're going to get off campus for at least a half a day and talk about what's going well, what needs more focus, what needs to be killed, what like individuals do we need to spend more time with to grow them. Maybe there's some individuals struggling. You're not going to spend a lot of time with struggles. You're just going to put some management, systems around them. So you can hold the line, but don't spend 80% of your time with your bottom 20%. Spend it with your top 20%. And this is where communication really becomes critical, right? Because you need to cascade information down. So you've got your quarterly offsites, right? And then the information that comes from those sessions needs to be communicated down. So every single meeting that you have, whether it's your quarterly offsite, your strategy meeting, your weekly tacticals, or your daily stand-ups, whatever, right? Every time a decision is made, right, it's got to cascade down. So at the end of the meeting, 5 minutes left on the agenda, you land the plane. What did we decide today? What did we decide today? Who needs to know? Who's going to communicate it, and by when? What did we decide? Who needs to know? Who's going to communicate it, and by when? Confused communication creates a confused culture, right? So it's such a critical piece. And if you don't have an effective meeting strategy and you'd like one, email me, tom@lbleaders.com, effective meetings, and I will set you up with that process so you can have a better understanding of the 4 critical meetings that every organization should have, because meetings should create alignment and they should increase the communication, not create more confusion. So we've talked about a lot. There's a lot more that I could continue to go through, but right now, let's just kind of close with this. Some application questions, and I'll put them in the show notes. Where are your leadership gaps? What systems were inconsistent this year? Who are we developing for next year? What conversations need to happen right now? And what culture are we intentionally building for the future, right? Remember, a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. So it's your job to be developing and equipping the people around you, not hiding. And if you don't have the right people around you, then well, what are you going to do about it? You gotta take some action steps to build the team that's going to take the school to the next level, because the students and the staff deserve nothing but the best from the leadership team. So the culture, the systems, and the team you want next year are being built by the leadership decisions you're making right now, right? Strong leaders don't wait for the summer. They start right now. I hope this added value to it. If it did, share it out, share it with your team. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you hear every episode every time it drops. Keep leading, keep building, keep making a difference, everybody.